I spent more than 3 decades in uniform, serving on carriers, destroyers, and smaller ships that carried us across every ocean on this planet. During those years, I witnessed many things: combat drills, long deployments, storms that shook even the strongest steel hulls. But among all those memories, nothing left a deeper mark on me than the solemn moments when we laid our brothers and sisters to rest at sea. For those outside the Navy, it may sound unusual, placing a shipmate into the deep ocean rather than the ground. But for us, it is one of the most sacred traditions we carry forward. The sea has always been both our workplace and our home. To be buried beneath its waves is to remain forever with the element we defended. Each time I stood on deck, hearing the chaplain's words drift into the wind or listening to the haunting sound of taps echo across the water, I felt the weight of history pressing on my shoulders. It reminded me that we were not just sailors of the present. We were part of a brotherhood, stretching back through centuries of service. Today, as a retired officer, I want to share with you how these ceremonies unfold, what they mean to the families, and why this ancient tradition continues to matter more than ever. Every year, around 1,500 service members, veterans, and their loved ones make their final journey into the ocean. Some choose cremation, some are laid to rest in full caskets, but all of them share one thing: the honor of being remembered through one of the Navy's most sacred traditions. For those of us who wore the uniform, the sea was never just water. It was our home, our battleground, our constant companion. When a sailor chooses burial at sea, it means they have chosen to remain forever in the element that shaped their life. It is a final salute not just to their service, but to the ocean itself. Unlike a headstone in a cemetery, these ceremonies create a different kind of memorial. The coordinates given to families mark the exact place where their loved one rests, far beneath the waves. Those numbers become sacred landmarks, often passed down through generations, visited by sons, daughters, and grandchildren who toss flowers into the sea. And there is something deeply American about this tradition. It reflects freedom, vastness, and permanence. The ocean knows no borders, no politics, only the bond of those who served upon it. That is why burial at sea matters. It connects us to every sailor who has ever stood watch under the stars, and it ensures their sacrifice is never forgotten. The journey toward a burial at sea does not begin on a warship. It begins with a phone call. Families reach out to the Navy through a dedicated number that never closes, day or night, holidays or weekends. Because when grief strikes, the Navy does not make families wait. Once the request is made, a packet arrives in the mail within days. Inside are clear instructions, forms, and guidance on how to prepare either cremated remains or a casket. For the family, this moment often brings a mix of sorrow and pride. They know their loved one will not rest in a quiet cemetery, but in the open ocean, honored by an entire crew. Unlike other military funerals, families cannot stand beside the flag-draped casket when it is lowered. They cannot hear the bugle in person or feel the spray of salt water on their face, and yet that absence is part of what makes the tradition so powerful. The Navy becomes the family for that day. Every sailor on board treats the fallen with the same respect they would give to their own brother or sister. It is a reminder that military service is never just about one individual. It is about belonging to something greater, a community that carries you through life and even carries you home when your final voyage begins. Suchuan bichomot, liantang tren bien shua bao giobizemhe. Tren bat ki kontao na toy tung chung kien. Tui tu joan luon koi jon hu jang tien jua mot ngoi than trongia jin. Truokangai dien ra, holau bong lan kan, shasach bung tao, vakiem tra tung chitiet. Boivi ki kon kas aijen, huchi ko duin hat mot kohoi jelam tronven. Voitrokat, chiemja sokats boile, gia jin fai chuan bi mot bin fan huisin hok. Kong juok feb dung noa hei vat liu gai hai. Hai kwan tu chwe lam on hiem bung bien ma hutung te baove. Ki bin ha juok jat len ban pu hoa, jo kong chila chiek hop jung tro. Mala kontao kwa kong cho mot ngoy tung kwa chaulin. Antang ngoyen kwan tai hiem hon, chi koang moy lam trung hop monam. Va yuk au vo kung nang hiem nangat. Kwan tai fai juok koan jung hai moy lo, tam lo tren, tam lo dua, Vahailo, o Moai Jiao. Trong luong toi thiu faila batrampaun. New chua ju, sedembao kathawag betong. Chi tung juak sudung po bien, ne jan bikam bigay ha shosin vad bien. Ngay ka kija yeneng hi, kach kubin van tiep tuk bao ve moai truong mea ho tung gin gyu. Jiu kien toi an tung hachin lasu chuan bikwakach thui thu, hong shithiet bi. Hotap duot hitok di chuyen, gap ko, ban sung chao. Nung chang trai ko gai moi joy moi bong tro, nening hiem trang, gm ting, va mang mot, fong thai, vot qua tuoi joy. Jola kash hokang jin, ngoi jong joy, nai se hong bao gio, bilong quen. When the day of the ceremony arrives, the ship makes her way to a very specific place at sea. The law requires at least 3 miles from shore, in waters at least 600 feet deep. In some regions, like off the coast of Florida, the depth must reach 1,800 feet. The location is chosen with care, recorded with precision, and will forever mark the final home of the fallen. Once on station, the order is given to stop engines. The ship comes to a halt, resting silently in the swell. The national flag is lowered to half-mast, and the words echo over the announcement system. All hands bury the dead. Those few words carry a weight that no sailor ever forgets. Men and women not on essential duty gather on deck. They stand shoulder to shoulder, uniforms pressed, shoes shined, every ribbon and insignia in place. Officers wear black armbands, a quiet symbol of mourning. The ship itself seems to grow still, as if the steel hull understands what is about to happen. For me, those moments were always the most powerful. The ocean stretched endlessly to the horizon, and in that silence, you could feel the presence of every sailor who had ever gone before, waiting to welcome another brother or sister home. Every burial at sea has 2 distinct parts, and together they create something unforgettable: faith and honor. The religious portion comes first. If a chaplain is on board, he or she steps forward, prayer book in hand. If not, the commanding officer assumes the sacred duty. Scripture is read, prayers are spoken, and the crew stands at parade rest, heads bowed. It doesn't matter if you are Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Buddhist, or of no faith at all. The respect in that silence is universal. Then the military portion begins. The honor guard positions the flag-draped casket on a tilting board. The blue field of stars rests over the left shoulder, just as regulations require. At the command, "Firing party, present arms," every sailor snaps to attention. Rifles rise in perfect unison, their barrels catching the sunlight. The committal prayer is read slowly, deliberately. At the final words, the board is tilted, and the casket slides smoothly beneath the flag and into the sea. The flag remains with the crew, to be folded with care and later delivered to the family. Then comes the thunder, 3 rifle volleys fired across the open water. The sound rolls for miles, carried by the wind. Finally, the bugler steps forward, no recording, no pretense, just a sailor with a brass instrument sounding the mournful notes of taps. The melody hangs in the air, piercing and beautiful, as if the ocean itself is listening. For cremated remains, the ritual is different but no less moving. The urn is placed on a flower-covered stand. At the proper moment, an officer carefully scatters the ashes into the wind and waves. If the family has requested it, the empty urn follows, sinking gently into the deep. In those moments, you realize this is not simply a ceremony, it is a promise kept. A promise that no sailor will ever be sent to the sea alone. When the rifles are silent and the bugle has faded, the ship returns to her duties. But for the family at home, the most meaningful part of this journey is still to come. Within 10 days, the commanding officer sits down at his desk. No aide, no secretary, just the officer himself, pen in hand. He writes a personal letter to the family. It is not a template or a computer printout. It is his account of what took place. The prayers spoken, the flag folded, the moment their loved one slipped beneath the waves. Along with that letter comes a package. Inside is the folded American flag, the very one that covered the casket or rested beside the urn. There are photographs, sometimes even video of the ceremony, proof that their loved one was honored by an entire crew. Most important of all are the coordinates. the precise latitude and longitude of the final resting place. Families often frame those numbers, hang them in their homes, or pass them down through generations. Some charter boats to visit the exact spot. They scatter flowers on the water, holding their own quiet services above the waves. Others find comfort simply knowing where the ocean cradles their loved one. This, I believe, is the Navy's greatest gift. It is not just about laying someone to rest. It is about giving families a place in their hearts and on their maps, a place where memory, honor, and love converge. One detail that often surprises people is how carefully the Navy considers the environment. Every urn used must be biodegradable, designed to dissolve naturally. Every casket lowered into the sea meets strict rules to prevent harm. Lead, once common, is now forbidden. Sand, concrete, and steel ensure weight, but nothing toxic remains behind. In time, those caskets and urns become part of the ocean floor. They settle quietly, and soon marine life begins to grow around them. What began as a farewell becomes, in a sense, a gift, an artificial reef that supports fish, coral, and countless other creatures. Even in death, our shipmates continue their duty, protecting the seas they once sailed. For the families, there is another kind of comfort. The ocean is vast, endless, and free. Unlike a cemetery with boundaries and fences, the sea feels eternal. Standing on a shore or looking out from a boat, many families say they sense their loved one is still with them, carried by the waves beneath the stars at peace. That is the spiritual power of this tradition. It is not just about saying goodbye. It is about knowing that a sailor's final chapter is written in the same waters where their story began. In recent years, the numbers alone tell a powerful story. In 2023, the Navy performed more than 800 burials at sea, over 2 every single day. Each service received the same attention to detail, whether for a senior officer, a young enlisted sailor, or a veteran who had served decades earlier. What strikes me most is the diversity. The Navy honors men and women of every faith and background. Christian prayers, Jewish blessings, Muslim recitations, Buddhist chants, all are given equal respect. The military portion never changes, but the spiritual portion adapts to reflect the beliefs of the departed. In this way, the sea becomes a resting place open to all. It is not only veterans who are eligible. Spouses and dependent children may also be granted burial at sea if they wish. This keeps families together, even in death. I have seen ceremonies where a sailor's wife was laid to rest beside him, years after his own journey beneath the waves. There is something profoundly moving about that unity. And then there is the legacy. Coordinates become heirlooms, passed down through generations. Fathers and sons, sometimes grandfathers too, rest in the same vast waters. Children and grandchildren return to those points on the map, scattering flowers where the ocean now holds their family. The tradition is more than procedure. It is a thread connecting generations of service, weaving together faith, family, and the eternal sea. For the sailors who stand on deck, these ceremonies leave an imprint that lasts a lifetime. Many are barely 18 or 19 years old when they take part in their first burial at sea, yet in that moment, you can see the change in their eyes. They realize they are part of something far greater than daily routines or drills. They are honoring a life, and in doing so, they learn what service and sacrifice truly mean. I have spoken with young sailors years after their first ceremony. They often remember every detail, the folded flag, the echo of the rifles, the way the sea seemed endless as the casket disappeared beneath the waves. Some even keep in touch with the families, sending photos or letters long after the service has ended. It becomes more than duty, it becomes a bond. For families, the impact is just as lasting. The personal letter, the coordinates, the photographs, these items become treasured heirlooms. They are framed, displayed, and passed down. Holidays and anniversaries often include moments of remembrance at the exact coordinates where their loved one rests. This shared memory links crew and family together. It shows that military service never ends with a discharge or retirement. The spirit of brotherhood lives on, binding sailors across oceans and generations. As I look toward the future, I see this tradition not fading, but growing stronger. New ships are being designed with spaces specifically meant for ceremonies at sea. Technology ensures every detail is preserved. High-resolution cameras capture the service. GPS systems record exact coordinates, and digital archives allow families to share those memories for generations to come. Environmental responsibility remains at the center. The Navy has adapted quickly to stricter laws, requiring biodegradable urns and caskets that leave no harmful trace. In this way, burial at sea does more than honor veterans. It also protects the waters they once defended. Younger generations of veterans are increasingly choosing this option. They see it as a final gesture of unity with the sea that shaped their lives. And for families, the idea of a loved one resting in the open ocean, rather than in a crowded cemetery, carries a sense of freedom and peace. The tradition also continues to unite services. Coast Guard cutters, submarines, destroyers, even aircraft carriers all participate. The message is clear. Whether past or present, sailor or marine, officer or enlisted, no one is forgotten. To me, that is the promise of the future. Burial at sea will endure, not only as a custom of the Navy, but as a living testament to honor, respect, and eternal brotherhood. Looking back on my years at sea, I know now that burial at sea is not just a ritual, it is a sacred duty. Every detail, from the folding of the flag to the last echo of the rifles, is carried out with absolute care, because we only get one chance to honor a life, and the Navy treats that chance as holy. For families, the photographs, the coordinates, and the folded flag are more than tokens. They are proof that their loved one was honored, remembered, and carried home by an entire crew. For sailors, every ceremony is a lesson. It reminds us that service is not measured by medals or promotions, but by loyalty to one another, and by the promise that no one will ever go alone into the sea. Even now, years into retirement, I cannot hear taps without feeling the ocean breeze on my face. Each note brings back the memories of faces, flags, and promises made on distant waters. So the next time you see a Navy ship on the horizon, remember this. Somewhere out there, sailors may be honoring a hero's final voyage. And as long as these ceremonies endure, one truth will remain. No sailor is ever forgotten, and the brotherhood of the sea will live on forever. If this story moved you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and help share these traditions with others. Thank you for joining me today. May peace, happiness, and good fortune be with you and your families, always.